Today on Jeep News, is Jeep's V8 plan backfiring? Find out today from Dirt Road Cred. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today on Jeep News, we've got some really exciting content. This is something coming from a couple of our audience members and viewers sending us private messages. But before we get into that, for those of you that have been waiting on Gladiator new colors, this is kind of a little tidbit for you. Purple Rain is now available to order on the Gladiator. This is the first time it's been available in that color. Anthony, our friend down at Sands Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, already placed a couple orders. He said he actually did a dark sky, and then I was curious to see what a Mojave would look like, and he texted me this morning and said, I ordered it, see if you like it. So Gladiator Purple Rain is now available to order, $895, but if you want it, you can get it right now. That's not the main point of this video, though. The main point of this video is the fact that we think Jeep's old plans or old decisions by one of their former CEOs are now coming back to haunt them. This is a very interesting one, and it's something that a few of our audience members reacted to in our most recent video. Our most recent video comparing the 25 versus 26 Wrangler, we talked a lot about where is the 392. There hasn't been any discussion of it, there's been no rumor of it, and we're very curious. With the past CEO going in that YouTube only meeting and saying, V8 owners, don't worry. There's some things that have come out on Mopar Insider and Road and Track that V8 owners, we are a little worried. The Dodge Durango, if you guys haven't been aware, the Dodge Durango for the 2026 model year will only be in a V8 configuration. There's a 5.7 liter Hemi, a 6.4 liter 392, and a 710 horsepower Hellcat powertrain. That is all you can get on the 26 Durango. And for V8 owners, you might instantly rejoice. Finally, they're listening. This is what people want. Give us the V8. But as we dove deeper into that piece of image coming from Mopar Insiders, it showed all three of the trims, which kudos to Jeep, or kudos to Dodge, having the base Durango starting at 42. For a V8, and then even the 392 is 49. You could buy two of those for one 392 Wrangler. But the 5.7 says, it just says the kind of the specs on it, the features of it, but then both the 392 and the Hellcat both say Fed states only. Now, one of our viewers, Kenny, sent us this, and he goes, is this the reason we haven't seen 392 Wranglers? Just by that screenshot, Fed states are basically states that don't have to abide by the strict California Air Resource Board CARB rules, which is going upwards of 14, 15 states. I know Pennsylvania is included. So those Fed states don't have to abide by that, which gets me very nervous. Why are those two trims with a 392 and a Hellcat, they can only be sold, or supposedly only will be able to be sold in these Fed states? And the only reason we could think of, I was kind of scratching my head, because you could buy a, Ryan, you could buy a TRX, a Hellcat, a Challenger, a Charger from PA, from New Jersey, from all these CARB states for the past few years, it seemed. The real change was back in 2020, 2021, when only CARB states in the Jeep and Stellantis brands could carry the electrified models if they had them. So in PA, we could only carry 4xe Wranglers as a stock unit. You could order anything else, but you could only carry those. So I had Ryan pull out his phone because I said I could have sworn the old CEO agreed to something. Carlos, back in the day, he was a big pusher of electrification. That was what he was really into. And Ryan pulled up an article of, it was, I want to say March of 2024, but this one comes from Detroit News, and it says, even after law, this is posted June 15th of 2025, even after lawmakers and President Donald Trump canceled California's strictest in the nation automotive emission standards, Stellantis NV remains on the hook for electrical vehicle sale requirement that will be difficult to meet. That's because the transatlantic automaker signed a settlement agreement in 2024 promising to comply with future Golden State, California policies regardless of any judicial or federal action. That's the key point right there. So even if this stuff starts like judicially going away, federally being cut, from what we gather by this article, Stellantis is still on the hook. That's a hard one to agree to. So that was agreed to in sometime around March of 2024. And what I think is happening is like, this is the past decisions that are now coming back to haunt them. California has been getting stricter and stricter with their emissions requirements, EV sales. They have really lofty goals. And that's now hurting Stellantis because Ford, all these other automakers didn't agree to this. Stellantis did, and it says regardless of judicial or federal. So that's like basically saying you agreed to it. you said, regardless of this, regardless of that. And now currently the new CEO and team at Jeep and Stellantis is going to have to pick up the pieces. So what does this all mean? What does this all come down to? So that was a lot of backdrop as far as what we're talking. The 392 that I owned, I want to say it met California emissions, but it wasn't like the stricter ones. So I'm curious of why the 5.7 in the Durango meets it and why the 5.7 probably in the Ram does, but the 392 and the Hellcat don't. I wonder if the 2026 standards or 2026 model years, as California is getting progressively more and more to that carbon neutral, the standards are getting higher every year. It's like a step going up to it. And I'm curious if the new 392 or the current 392 just doesn't meet those requirements.
Yeah.
That's going to be a hard one. That really changes kind of probably the entire outlook of that, because there was all these big touting phrases that said 390 or V8 owners don't worry in this last meeting. And now it's like, well, I think there is a little bit of worry because this is close to 15 states that abide to these rules. That's a lot of the country. Will we see an actual 392 Wrangler, or was the final edition actually the final edition? So what does this mean for the 392? If the Durango 392 currently can't pass, right? That's what we're talking about. So we don't know if they've gone back to the drawing board and they're playing around with the 392 for the Wrangler. But if it can't, right? Say it can't pass these carbon emission standards and it won't be for sale in these states. And I probably should look at the exact amount, but I think it's around 14 or 15. And they're very highly populated states. New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Vermont, California. There's a lot of these big states. So if it can't pass, is it worth it for them to continue it? Is it worth it for Jeep to continue the Rubicon 392 when the majority of highly populated states are excluded from the sale of them? Or will it be a situation same like back in the early 2020s when you couldn't just keep them as a stock unit, but you could still factory order them? That's what I'm very curious about. So this is big news, even if it doesn't sound like it, because there's always that talk about the 392 Gladiator and the Hemi Gladiator and when's it coming. If all this is coming back to bite them, would they invest that amount of money to make something that's not CARB compliant and couldn't be sold in these states? That's the question we've got to ask ourselves.
Is the Hemi allowed?
The 5.7 in the Durango is allowed. From what we're going off of one sheet, that 5.7 Durango says basically available. It didn't say any restrictions. The other one said restrictions. So is the 5.7 okay? Is the Ram 1500 5.7 okay? Will that be the method they go? Will they go with the 5.7 then? Or will it not be worth the investment?
Yeah.
That's really our question right now, is will they make maybe a Wrangler with a 5.7 and a Gladiator with a 5.7? I'm not sure. The one thing I am sure of is that this thing's going to get a new power plant and it is going to be a 5.7 under the hood, and we're not going to have to wait to see. And plus, the hard thing is, too, with all these CARB rules is that's why they have the auto stop start, the MDS, the cylinder shutdown, all these crazy strict things. That's what they're trying to meet. So I'm curious how much more we can do to these engines to really take all the power out of them just to meet one state standards that are unfortunately applied all over the place. I think one of the hardest things that Stellantis is going to have to overcome is the fact that they signed on to this deal. And that, I mean, I haven't read through the entire article, but seeing that there was more official things that were signed, more agreements and things like that, it's going to be hard for them to navigate that in the future. One thing, so when we're talking about this is all just us just chatting in a garage and Ryan and I really talking off camera and then putting it on camera here. But the fact of the matter is, I'll play devil's advocate a little bit, because I would like to say, or I would be like comfortable saying, maybe the 392 goes away. Maybe they're not looking to do the Rubicon 392. They've sold enough of these things. It's kind of outpriced itself. It's into the six figures. They've made their money and they won't do it again. But then I started to think, if the money's there and they're going to sell enough Durango 392s and Hellcats for them not to care if it doesn't meet CARB regulations and they can only sell it in certain states, I would argue then that Jeep would probably be willing to do the same. I'd say Jeep would probably be willing to do the same in those non-CARB states, put maybe a crazier engine in the Wrangler or Gladiator and then go forward with it. The thing that I'm seeing, though, is that they've just been very greedy with the Wrangler and Gladiator and haven't knocked the prices down enough. And I think adding an engine, they'll just be even more greedy. That's personally what I think. If they would do a 392 Gladiator, there's no way they're doing it on a Sport. There's no way they're going to do it on a base trim. It's going to be on a Rubicon X. It's going to be top tier. I don't think they'd go much less than what they did for the Wranglers. I don't think they'd be lower than like the 80s. I think they'd be up in the 90s easily for
if
that.
there's less being produced, would that up the
They'll just call it a final edition again, or make it 1 of 1,000, or make it last call, whatever they want to say with it. But in reality, though, this is a very important topic just because past agreements are now hurting them in the future. And I think it's crazy because all the other competitors, Ford, which produces the Bronco, they're not going to have to abide by some of this stuff. So will we start to see more crazy competition from them? Because one thing I am happy with that the Bronco exists is that competition was created, and that's I think why we saw the 392. So I know Ford is prepping for the new Bronco. So what's Jeep prepping for? They're going to have to be able to combat it. They're going to have to be able to fight back. But is that the reason maybe the diesel went away in 23? Because diesels obviously produce more emissions than a standard gasoline engine. It's very interesting. So once again, I wanted to thank a couple of our audience members, especially Kenny, who sent us over that and really got to chatting about it. I think what it just really brings up is that maybe that's why we haven't seen such a big release of the 26 Wrangler or the 26 Gladiators. They're just very up in the air as far as what can actually be done. But, you know, something could change tomorrow, and as soon as it does, we'll be the first to post the news up here on Dirt Road Cred. I know a lot of you guys absolutely love when we post this stuff, and we love the conversations that it starts down below. So we're optimistic, but we also know that we can go and get any V8 Wrangler Gladiator we want right now from our buddies Jared over at America's Most Wanted 4x4, which we'll be at next week. So if you guys are coming out to the open house, we will be there. I'm not sure what Jeeps we're all going to take, but we'll probably just leave them all there and get Hemi swapped at the same time. And then we'll just fly home, right? And come back and pick up every elephant Wrangler and Gladiator we have. But yeah, if you guys are in the area, come out to Detroit. We'd love to see you at the open house. But until next time, though, that's an interesting conversation. I'd like you guys to continue it down below and let's chat about what your theories on that, if maybe the actual final edition was the final one. But until we learn more, we're going to go with this, and we're going to keep the conversation going down below. But thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate all the support. If you haven't checked out, we have new merch on the website too. We still selling the heck out of those light kits, so thank you for everyone that has been picking those up, and we really appreciate all of you guys. And our journey to 100,000 subscribers, I would say, starts now. We're hoping for Jeep Beach. That's our goal. If we can get 100K by Jeep Beach, beach party, pizza party.
Pizza party for all.
Only one topping though, pizza party. Yeah, we'll circle back on that, but let's close this one out. From Ryan behind the camera, me here talking to you. We want you to get out there and earn yours.